This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Wednesday, February 24th. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. We begin in Europe, where the bodies of Italian Ambassador Luca Attanasio and his bodyguard Vittorio Iacovacci arrived back in Italy on Tuesday evening with their coffins draped with the Italian flag. An Italian military plane arrived at Rome's Ciampino airport in the dead night after a flight from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ambassador Attanasio, 43, and bodyguard Iacovacci, 30, were killed on Monday while traveling in a World Food Programme convoy to visit a school feeding project. WFP driver Mustapha Milambo was also killed. Democratic Republic of Congo's Interior Ministry on Monday blamed a Hutu militia called the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, but did not provide any evidence. In Niger, the ruling party candidate Mohamed Bazoum was declared the winner of the presidential election on Tuesday. However, his opponent alleged fraud and opposition supporters burned tires in the streets. Bazoum, a 61-year-old former interior minister, won 55.75% of the vote in Sunday's election, according to the Electoral Commission. He beat Mahamane Ousmane, a former president who was toppled by a coup in 1996. The provisional results must still be confirmed by the Constitutional Court. At a celebration rally, Bazoum promised he would be the people's loyal servant. His supporters said they believed in his promise to invest in education. Shortly before the results were declared, Ousmane's campaign said there had been widespread fraud, including the theft and stuffing of ballot boxes and threats against voters. It did not provide any evidence. The Electoral Commission has not yet commented on the allegations of irregularities. The United States is looking at a range of targeted options to hold accountable Ugandan security forces who it deemed responsible for abuses against opposition candidates and civil society, according to the State Department spokesman, Ned Price. Incumbent Yoweri Museveni, a former guerrilla leader who has led the East African country since 1986, was declared winner of the January 14 election with 59% of the vote, while opposition leader Bobi Wine was given 35%. A crackdown by security forces on Wine's supporters over the past few months has left dozens dead and hundreds detained. Guinea started an Ebola vaccination campaign on Tuesday as authorities raced to contain the fast resurgence of the virus there since the world's worst outbreak in 2013 to 2016. The World Health Organization said the vaccination was launched in Gueke, a rural community in Zerekore Prefecture, where the first cases were detected on February 14. The launch started with vaccination of health workers. In a statement, the WHO said the vaccination uses the ring strategy, where all people who have come into contact with a confirmed Ebola patient are given the vaccine, as well as frontline and health workers. Guinea has recorded 4 confirmed and 4 probable cases, including 5 deaths, in the first resurgence of Ebola since the 2013 to 2016 outbreak. Health authorities are ramping up efforts to quickly contain the latest outbreaks of Ebola in Guinea and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Experts say, among other things, community engagement is vital for an Ebola response to be successful. A resurgence of the viral disease could cripple the already strained healthcare system of those countries at a time when the continent is also battling the coronavirus pandemic. In part 2 of Africa 54, Lino Mudu's interview with Dr. Jean-Jacques Muyembe, who discovered the Ebola viral disease in 1976 and General Director of DRC's National Institute of Biomedical Research.
What do you expect from people during an Ebola epidemic or any other epidemic for that matter? People usually are waiting for help from the government. The government might wait for help from partners, but what do you, as someone in the field who is responsible for the health security of populations, expect from the communities?
With local communities, the problem is really, the level of information. It matters a lot. It's really to get them to better understand the pros of a vaccination, because it's very important. When we have a global epidemic, it's not good for a part of the continent to get vaccinated, to cut the chain of transmission and make the virus go away. And one part of the continent, some countries refuse. Because even if in Europe they become free from the virus, the risks of reintroduction of the virus in Europe will always be great from the countries that have gone through with vaccination. So we are in a world that has become like a big village. You can't have double standard because the risk is going to stay permanent in the world. And overall, global health is more important than the individual health of a country. This is what we must make people understand so we can fight together to eliminate the virus, which is the enemy of the world.
As I mentioned, you were the one who discovered Ebola virus over 40 years ago. How do you read the evolution of Ebola virus disease and the response in the DRC after all these years?
Okay, you see, when you went through such a disease, you witnessed its birth. You have witnessed its development, how measures have been put in place to stop it. You understand the power of science and medicine. In 1976, when I saw the first cases of Ebola, no one could think that Ebola could be a threat to humanity. We thought it was something happening in the equatorial forests that will stay there. But with the various means of travel and the way sick people are treated in hospitals and other factors, Ebola became a global threat. And researchers started to study this virus and develop the vaccine and the drug to treat. This is significant progress. I'm proud to have witnessed this progress, not only witness it, but also to have been an actor of this progress.
Before I finish, Dr. Jean-Jacques Muyembe, there was an epidemic in West Africa that started in 2013, 2014, and lasted about 2 years. Now we are seeing a resurgence in Guinea. What is your reaction?
It confirms the recurrence trend. Before, we didn't know that Ebola could come back to the same pace multiple times. But now we realize the risks. You can end an epidemic, but you cannot end the virus. The epidemic is over, but the virus is still there. So it can come back. So we have to be vigilant. After an epidemic, continue to follow, continue to monitor, and especially develop laboratories to make diagnoses at the center of the epidemic. Back then, for example, in Kikwit in 1995, we took the sample. We needed to send it to CDC in Atlanta, in USA. And then wait a week or two to receive the results. Meanwhile, the number of cases will increase. But now we can do the diagnostic locally, and especially in my institute here, the National Institute of Biomedical Research, INRB, in Kinshasa. We are able to do the sequencing and have results in 3 days. For example, for this latest case, we did the sequencing ourselves, and we know where the virus came from, etc. So this is progress that we have made and that we did not have before.
I wanted to ask you one last question. The use of plasma from people who have recovered from Ebola is a method that you have initiated in your part of the world. Where are we with this approach to treatment?
Our monoclonal antibody treatment, which we developed with the NIH in the United States, has been approved by the US FDA, the famous body that approves drugs and vaccines. And that's the molecule that can treat Ebola, and the people can be cured with it. We have about 300 doses here at National Institute of Biomedical Research in Kinshasa. We have already sent doses to North Kivu. We'll also send some shipment to Guinea to treat the sick. This is something we can do in the framework of African solidarity to help our friends in Guinea.
pour venir en aide à nos amis de la Guinée.
Dr. Jean-Jacques Muyembe, thank you so much for responding to our questions today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
That was Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu speaking with Dr. Jean-Jacques Muyembe, General Director of the DRC National Institute of Biomedical Research. Senegal began inoculating its population against COVID-19 on Tuesday, though some questioned why a smaller percentage of the population were getting the vaccines compared with wealthier countries. Angela Okumadu reports.
Government ministers and health workers were at the front of the queue as Senegal began its coronavirus vaccination campaign on Tuesday. The West African country is one of the first in the region to begin inoculating its population, having received 200,000 doses from China's Sinopharm. It aims to immunize 3.5 million of its 16 million people, with 90% of those vaccinations delivered by the end of the year. Some in the capital, Dakar, like student Alex Ntuba, welcomed the launch.
The vaccine is a good thing because we are facing something that is overwhelming us.
Others, like Mame Awakoli, however, questioned why around 20% of the population was being vaccinated less than in wealthier parts of the world.
Compared to the developed countries in the north, the percentage is really weak. Why? Of course, they are the ones who manufacture them. But there needs to be some kind of motivation on the part of the African states so that we can also make vaccines and reduce the number of COVID-19 cases as much as possible.
Senegal is eligible for doses through the World Health Organization's COVAX distribution program and can also get shots from the African Union. Earlier this month, it paid around $3.7 million for the Sinopharm vaccines to kickstart its campaign. As a gesture of solidarity with other African nations, Senegal's health minister said the country's smaller neighbors, Gambia and Guinea-Bissau, would each be given 10,000 of the Sinopharm shots.
That was Angela Okumadu of Reuters reporting. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Tuesday supported a call by French President Emmanuel Macron to donate COVID-19 vaccines to healthcare workers in Africa as a star-studded event was announced to support equitable distribution. The European Union has contributed an additional $606 million to the World Health Organization-backed COVAX program to supply COVID-19 shots to emerging economies, doubling the bloc's initial contribution. Global Citizen, an international pressure group that aims to end extreme poverty by 2030, launched a campaign to support equitable distribution of vaccines that will feature a broadcast special in May. Artists scheduled to participate include Grammy-winning American singer-songwriter Billie Eilish. Meanwhile, India will on Tuesday make its first shipment of a locally made COVID-19 shot to the WHO-backed Equitable Vaccine Distribution Network COVAX, according to spokesman of the Ministry of External Affairs. Nigeria's reported rapes tripled during COVID-19 pandemic to a few thousand, but the UN Children's Fund says 1 in 4 girls have been victims of sexual violence, meaning countless thousands of rapes are going unreported due to stigma. A Nigerian programmer has created an application for rape survivors to report the attacks and seek help while avoiding stigma. Percy Dabang reports from Yola, Nigeria.
22-year-old student Angela Felix, not her real name, says her cousin raped her during last year's pandemic lockdown. Too ashamed to tell her family or police, she instead considered suicide until she stumbled onto a mobile application that probably saved her life.
What got my attention with the app was the fact that I don't need to be in touch with the person before stating my case or getting help. So I actually decided to try that, and then I downloaded the app, I stated my case, and you could imagine, like, immediately I got help.
The SMARTRR application, launched in October, removes the stigma of reporting rape in person and helps survivors to get counseling and support, says creator Dirug Samuel.
Simply kind of solving the issue of stigma, because you can report to a service provider and you can be in contact with the service provider with necessarily, without nobody knowing that you've asked for help from someone except you, the service provider, and perhaps the perpetrator that knows what happened. So with that, it increases reporting.
The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, says 1 in 4 Nigerian girls and women have been victims of sexual violence. But only a few thousand rapes are reported each year across the whole of Nigeria, a country of more than 200 million people, meaning countless thousands of rapes going unreported. That's shackling the fight against rapists, say activists who hope the SMARTRR can help.
There are so many referral channels, but we discovered that the SMARTRR is easier. Guiding principles are inclusive. The need for confidentiality is there. So you can't even use it without the consent of the survivor.
While better reporting should help, critics say Nigeria's legal system still fails most rape survivors.
The issue of conviction is a big issue, and it's a big step for us. If we can have a conviction, it will serve as a deterrent to others. That will minimize the cases of rape.
Despite the jump in reported rapes during the pandemic, Nigeria's National Police Force said last year there were only 103 convictions nationwide. Percy Dabang for VOA News, Yola, Nigeria.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, young Nigerian entrepreneurs use new technology to help small businesses impacted by COVID-19. Stay with us.
Hello, welcome to Straight Talk Africa, live from the Voice of America headquarters here in Washington. I am Shaka Sali. Straight Talk Africa, we call it like it is. We discuss issues that reflect the interests of our audience without fear or favor. We are guided by facts, and I look at myself as a servant of nothing but the truth.
Welcome back to Africa 54. The Senate has confirmed career diplomat Linda Thomas Greenfield as the United States permanent representative to the United Nations. Thomas Greenfield is likely to be tested by countries like China at the world body. VOA's senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain has more.
Despite objections from some Republican senators that delayed the vote, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield received strong bipartisan support on Capitol Hill Tuesday, with more than 20 Republicans joining Democrats to confirm her as the U.S. representative to the United Nations.
On this vote, the yeas are 78, the nays are 20. The nomination is confirmed.
During her confirmation hearing last month, Thomas Greenfield sought to dispel concerns voiced by some senators that she might be soft on the communist government in China.
In particular, we know China is working across the UN system to drive an authoritarian agenda that stands in opposition to the founding values of the institution, American values. Their success depends on our continued withdrawal. That will not happen on my watch.
Echoing the sentiment, State Department spokesperson Ned Price on Tuesday said American values and U.S. allies and partnerships are a source of strength in competing against China on the world stage.
When we seek to take on China alone, as we've done in the past, I think that the results would be meager compared to what we can do when we are galvanizing collective action.
During Thomas Greenfield's 35-year State Department career, she worked in both Democratic and Republican administrations. As an Africa specialist, she served as U.S. ambassador to Liberia and held posts in Kenya, Gambia, and Nigeria. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
For the first time Tuesday, U.S. lawmakers heard details from top security officials about the failures on January 6 when pro-Trump rioters breached the Capitol. Security officials told lawmakers there were numerous law enforcement missteps that day. VOA's congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has our report.
6 weeks after the deadly riot at the U.S. Capitol, top security officials told lawmakers they were unprepared for the unprecedented scope of the assault.
We properly planned for a mass demonstration with possible violence. What we got was a military-style coordinated assault on my officers and a violent takeover of the Capitol building.
The U.S. Capitol is protected by its own $516 million police force. Local D.C. police and federal authorities were also consulted in the days leading up to Trump's Stop the Steal rally, held as Congress met to certify the November presidential election.
Everyone was very satisfied that we had a robust plan, security plan, that was consistent with the intelligence that we had at the time.
Sund told lawmakers that preparation would have been different if he had been made aware of a January 5th FBI warning of an increase in the violence of protester threats.
How could you not get that vital intelligence on the eve of what's going to be in a major event?
That's something we need to look at. What's the process and how do we streamline that information getting to where it needs to go?
The exact reason for a significant delay in calling on National Guard reinforcements also is still unclear, as officials disputed the timeline of events during the assault.
I was surprised at the reluctance to immediately send the National Guard to the Capitol grounds.
More than 250 people have already been charged for their role in the riot. The top security officials agreeing the attack on Congress was clearly coordinated beforehand.
There was radio communication by several individuals that were involved, the coordinated use of chemical munitions to include bear spray by several people that were out there. I certainly believe it was coordinated.
Tuesday's hearing marks just the beginning of congressional investigations into the worst breach of the U.S. Capitol in 2 centuries. Testimony from Pentagon officials is expected next week. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
In our tech news, COVID-19 is having a devastating impact on small businesses in Nigeria. Since the beginning of the outbreak, young entrepreneurs are actively involved in developing solutions that solve big problems using new technology. For more perspective, Africa 54's technology correspondent Paul Ndiho spoke to Vivienne Belonu, media and communication strategist, Hyber Scaling Solutions, an innovation firm based in Lagos, Nigeria.
Vivienne Belon, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here.
You work for an innovation firm in Lagos, Nigeria. Maybe let's start by you telling me a little bit about what the firm is all about.
We pride ourselves at Hyber that we kind of merge older technology, with newer technology, in the sense that we solve big problems using new technology in simpler terms to simplify lives using innovation.
I like the idea that you guys are, in a way, acting as a bridge between old technology and new technology. What are some of the technologies that you've worked on?
We work with Coca-Cola, which is, of course, a large corporation, and one of their mission is to reduce the number of plastics in Nigeria, And so we worked alongside them. What we did was we created a program where we had startups in that area, renewable energy, to come together, wastes and all of that, And after this capacity development program, there's a case of funding. We leverage on their new innovative technology of these newer firms to devise means, to stop or to at least curtail the usage of plastics in Nigeria, cycle them, and then we use it for other projects, or we kind of use it for other purposes.
Earlier you talked about how you also help companies scale up. What did you mean exactly?
There are startups springing up here and there, but by research, over 95% of the startups do not make it to their 5th year. And there are so many reasons to that. Sometimes it's the lack of growth funding, sometimes it's the lack of capacity, talent, whatever it is. So what we're doing at HYBER is to collate all of those factors that help startups to scale and then implement it into a program, a venture program that scales or that spans within 3 to 5 years from ideation, down to the whole level of growth.
Let's go back to the issue of financing. You said there are a lot of startups or a lot of companies that come up, but because they lack the resources, they end up collapsing. To what extent do you think that at HYBER you are able to make those dreams come true?
At HYBER, what we ensure is to use models, business models, practical business models that has been replicated, in other businesses, and we've seen the success of these models, and we use them with our entrepreneurs. We get them to not just be investment ready, but also to know what to do after investment.
As an innovation firm, what kind of impact has COVID-19 had on your business?
Because we work with startups, and most of the startups are, affected by COVID in the sense that they cannot, go about their operations. So last year when the COVID started and and everyone was shutting down, we looked inwards as a team to realize or to find how we can help, our community, because we understand that a greater percent of our target audience or of people we work with are startups. And as an innovation firm, we took it as a responsibility to also play our part in the ecosystem. So we created a program, the Growing Through Uncertainty program, and we ran it. It was a virtual program, of course, considering the times that we were in. And we had a lot of experts come on board with our team members, and we helped SMEs, we helped entrepreneurs, with the tools to kind of migrate to the digital space. Because what COVID taught us, was how not to take the online space for granted. And we realized that some startups, are not able to migrate because of how the COVID came. So with that program, we're able to take them on a long journey. It was a 3 to 4 months program long, and we're able to take them on a journey to migrate successfully to the digital space. And it was awesome because we kind of impacted over 400 entrepreneurs across 25 countries in the world.
Well, Vivian, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure, Paul. Thank you. It was a pleasure coming on board.
That was Africa 54's tech reporter Paul Ndiho speaking to Vivienne Belonou, media and communication strategist at HYBER Scaling Solutions in Lagos, Nigeria. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.